Tell me if this sounds like you. You love playing 2K24, but you really enjoy going into universe mode and just spectating the matches, you know, being your own GM of your own wrestling promotion. What you might not know is you can actually go into the sliders and tweak them just a little bit so that your matches are more dramatic like the ones you see on TV. Those really close 1, 2 kick out pinfalls that go into more extensive matches. So what I'm going to show you today is actually the settings that I use in my own personal universe mode. It's not the same settings that I use for my community universe over on my Twitch channel. Check that out if you want. But these are the settings that I use when I'm trying to run my own version of like Raw, SmackDown, NXT, stuff like that. Okay, so while we're not going to look at every single setting, we are going to go over the ones that I think contribute to what I was talking about, making those matches more extensive, those closer matches, those more dramatic ones. And you might not think difficulty is going to have too much of an effect, but from the little bit of tweaking that I've found is hard is the way to go. When I've done these same settings on Legend, it almost makes it so the overalls of both superstars is kind of almost leveled out. It makes the worst superstars just a lot better. I feel like then my really good superstars don't look as strong against my weaker ones. So hard has been a good middle point for me. Weight detection simulated, stamina mode normal. Most of this is not going to matter too much. I turn off rope break automatic. I make it so they actually have to grab it. What's really frustrating is when a finisher is just done too close to the ropes. I feel like the rope breaks happen way too often, so I leave that on off. But if you don't care about it constantly giving you rope breaks when their leg is just close to the rope and nothing's touching it, by all means, do what you want to do. Next, go on over to balancing. You're going to see the AI standing strike, AI standing grapple. All of these reversal rates, I bump them up to 75. I believe the default is a 50. I bump them up to a 75. It doesn't get overdone. You could even get away with doing a little bit more. 75 I found is really good. It creates a lot more back and forth action. Instead of one superstar just getting too long of an attack that the other one just can't come back from, it creates a lot more of going back and forth in two superstars or more trading attacks and trading sequences a lot better. Most of these I leave on default. Down here, AI trading blows rate, I go ahead and I crank this up to 100 simply because I think it can only happen like once per match anyway. So I like it when it happens at least once. And I've still, even at 100, I've still had matches where my AI versus AI don't do this. So turning it up to 100 has really made it so it happens like one time in the match, like 7 out of 10 matches probably. So I just cranked that up just to make sure it happens. If you get tired of it, you can crank it down, but it's a new feature, so I like to see the AI engage in this. I turn my run-ins and everything, all this stuff, I turn all the way down, but I also turn it off in my universe mode because I like to be in control of that. So, and I'm pretty sure this only affects your regular play now matches. I don't even know if this affects universe mode, these three. Referee downtime, crank it up to 100. Doesn't happen that often, so when it does, I like my referee to stay down for a while and create opportunity for the AI to do some dirty stuff. When it's AI versus AI, they don't capitalize on it as often, so if I crank it up to 100, give them more time, sometimes they will do something dirty. Otherwise, the default time is only enough time to really take advantage if you are controlling it, so put that up to 100. All right, you might think I'm crazy on this one, but just try it. I promise you, just try it. But again, remember the goal here, we're creating dramatic AI matches that go on for a little bit longer than a quick video game match. So all of these reversal windows, the ground attack reversal windows, basic, signature and finisher reversal, all of the weapon reversal, I crank it up to 100. I promise you, if you do this, it's not as bad as you're gonna think. Your assumption might be that it's gonna be constant reversals back and forth. I promise you, it's not the case. Doesn't happen. All it does is make it so you actually get it a little bit more often, the same way you would on TV. I don't know if you've noticed, but when you watch Raw, you watch SmackDown, reversals happen kind of often. Pretty often they get a counter, they go back and forth. And this still, I feel like, happens less than what you see on TV. So give it a shot. Again, if you don't like it, you can crank this part down. But I've enjoyed it at 100 because you never really know who's going to get the final sequence, especially with signatures and finishers, with how often the WWE likes to have, you know, you see the wrestler is about to set up their finisher and it gets countered and oh wait, is this going to be it? And then it gets countered. that matches a lot of what you see on TV as well. Stamina cost, I put up at 75, put it up a little bit because I do like when my matches go on longer. I like to see them kind of look tired and do like the tired pins, stuff like that, a little bit more. Recovery rate, rollout frequency, I leave the same. I would even go so far as turning down rollout frequency sometimes. I've found I just left it because it doesn't really bother me that much. But if you don't like rollouts as much as I don't sometimes, you could probably turn that down a little bit. Rollout duration, I turned down a little bit. Stun gain, stun duration, vitality regen cooldown, regen rate, all of this I turned down a little bit. Now, in my experience, doing this makes it so it takes a little bit longer to build up the stun, but when they do get that there and they do a lot of damage, it also takes longer to recover. So whenever it does happen, it's more meaningful. Instead of it being a constant stun, nothing really happens, constant stun, then it goes away or whatever. When you do get the health beaten down and they're actually being worn down, it has more of an effect when it finally does happen, instead of it just happening over and over again. AI difficulty damage scaling, I put that to 0. I don't want the damage to change based on the difficulty because I'm doing AI versus AI. This seems like a setting that's more important if you're playing against AI and you want to adjust the difficulty, but if I'm having 2 AI go against each other, I don't see any purpose in making them do more damage just because I have it set to hard. So I just want the damage to stay the same. I put that at 0. All right, next up, this part's a little bit, we're getting a little bit important here. All right, this is a little bit more crucial to how these matches are going to look. You can skip all the ones that say player. This is for our AI settings that we're doing with our AI matches. So recent finisher influence, I actually have that set to 0 when I want longer matches. This is a setting that you want to write down. If you want to just have a normal Raw, a normal SmackDown, I would put all 3 of these up by about maybe 15 to 20. So maybe I'd set recent finisher 1 to 20, the second one to, maybe like 45, maybe 50, and I might up this a little bit more. Same with signature. Actually, normally, this should be 25. That should be a 25. So this is what I'll usually have it at if I'm doing like a PLE in my universe mode, where my matches, I don't want to just be one finisher and it ends. These are the ones that are finishing my storylines, and I want this to be a little bit more dramatic. So I'll make it so that first finisher isn't gonna do a ton, but as the match goes on, I want it so that then you're going to get those opportunities to get a 9-minute match, a 10-minute match, which, by the way, I don't know if I've said that yet so far. These settings, they don't give you half-hour, 40-minute matches. So if you're worried about that in the slightest, that's not a problem. Doing this actually only gets what feels like a usual 4 or 5-minute match by regular settings by the AI, bumps it up to like maybe a 9-10 plus minute match depending on the stipulation that you put on the match. At a regular 1v1, these settings here are still probably only going to give you like a 9-10 minute match, which does feel a little bit more like what you see on TV. But when I adjust these settings and I make it so that even having a 3+ finisher or signature, it still is just the default settings. You have to get to that point before that's going to put away the match. So if you're just doing regular Raw and SmackDown, you don't want the matches to go that long, you could probably put these recent ones up to, increase each of these by like 20 roughly. You could tinker with it a little bit, or you can make it so that you can tweak these first 2 up 20, and then the 3+, maybe even put it up to like 75 to 100 if you really want to make sure that whoever manages to pull off 3 finishers is going to put it away. All right, the other and last important one that I think really has an effect on the length of matches and just making them interesting is under submission minigame. You can ignore the player ones, but if you go down to where you see these 4 that are AI, now it's not going to seem like much because a lot of this is default, but this is an important one that you can tweak based on how you like your matches to end. Let's say, for instance, you just, you don't really care how it looks. You just want it, sometimes there to be submissions, sometimes not. You don't really care too much about if it happens more or less. You can honestly leave it at mostly default like I have it and just bump up the attacker a little bit. I feel like at the default settings, submissions are not that threatening unless it's a finisher or unless it is, a signature, or just if it's late in the match, maybe. Submissions don't come off as very scary with the default settings. So I inch up the attack button strength just a little bit, just by 15, and I leave everything else the same. Now, if you don't like submissions, it's very easy to fix that. All you need to do is turn down the attacker button strength like a ton. Like you could turn it all the way down, then you'd never have a submission victory. But obviously most of us aren't going to want that. But if you don't want most of your matches to have that, you could put it just a little below default, maybe even like 30, but you could probably just go 35, 40. And then defender strength up it by like 10 or 15 ish. Even just setting it like this would be enough to make it so submissions are not going to happen very often, or they're at least not, no, they're going to happen, but submissions are not going to end your match very often. Now, I recognize it might be tedious, but these are settings that you can change in between shows, in between matches if you really wanted to take the time to do that. I don't do it by match, but sometimes I'll switch it up based on the show. So my Raw matches are a little more like 5-6 minute matches. And then let's say I have a big PLE that I want some storylines to be resolved at. I will adjust it to be a little bit more like what you saw when I first opened this, to make sure I get a nice 9, 10, sometimes up to a 15-minute match if it's a stipulation match that's not just a simply a 1v1, or if it's a triple threat. If there's one thing I think I could add to, I shouldn't say one thing, but one of the things I would like to see added in the gameplay section in all of these sliders is the ability to save sets of sliders, because I will admit between shows it can get a little tedious, but once you've done it a couple times and you know what you're trying to switch, or you know what you care about, it doesn't take more than a minute to come to this screen, switch a few things and switch back. But I do wish you could save different settings as like presets and just name them after, you know, weekly show or PLE. If you have any questions, or if I kind of glossed over something, needs a little more attention, or if you have any questions on anything I talked about, or maybe something I accidentally skipped, put it in the comments. I'm a small creator, so you already know I'm going to answer all the comments. So if you have any questions, throw it down there. I'll help as best I can. Thank you very much for watching. See ya.